In the following presentation, I'll be conducting a market analysis on the petroleum oil industry. Topics to cover: brief description of the oil and gas industry, information and overview of the market, external environmental analysis, target segment/market, description of the industry marketing mix, and product positioning and differentiation within the industry. The oil industry is a massive, multifaceted global industry that impacts all aspects of our lives. It provides the world 7 billion people with 60% of their daily energy needs. Oil and gas keeps us warm in the cool winters and cool in the hot summers. There are approximately over 6,000 firms currently in the U.S. In 2013, revenue reached $199 billion in the U.S. Industry is predicted to grow at a 7% compound annual growth rate. Hydrocarbon basics. Crude oil and natural gas are naturally occurring substances present in rock amidst the Earth's crust. The origin of oil and gas is organic material, the remains of plants and animals, compressed in sedimentary rocks such as sandstone, limestone, and shale. Sedimentary rock is a product of sediment deposits in ancient oceans and other bodies of water. As layers of sediment were deposited on the ocean floor, decaying remains of plant and animals were integrated into the rock formation. This organic material eventually transformed into oil and gas after being exposed to a specific temperature and pressure range deep within the Earth's crust. The process. After crude oil is removed from the ground through offshore drilling, onshore drilling, or fracking, it is sent to a refinery by pipeline, ship, barge, or rail. At a refinery, different parts of the crude oil are separated into usable petroleum products. Crude oil is measured in barrels. A 42 U.S. gallon barrel of crude oil yields about 45 gallons of petroleum product. This gain from processing the crude oil is similar to what happens to popcorn, which gets enlarged after it is popped. Now let's move on to an overview of the market. The oil and gas industry is composed of a number of different companies and organizations that contribute to supplying refined products and natural gas. The industry is composed of fully integrated oil and gas companies, independent oil and gas producers, which may include refineries and marketers, pipeline operators, service companies, trade associations, and government agencies. Most oil and gas companies are typically large, integrated players that benefit from their scale of operations. The presence of such incumbents intensifies rivalry in the market. OPEC, which stands for the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, play a very significant role in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry, right from the time of its inception in 1960 to date. The organization currently has a total of 12 member countries. In 2011, OPEC constituted 81% of the global proven oil reserves. OPEC as a cartel of oil-producing countries dominate the upstream sector, accounting for 40% of the total global crude oil production. From a global market view, here is a list of the top 10 oil and gas companies in the world. Crude oil is the largest segment of the oil and gas market, accounting for 79.7% of the global market total value. In the U.S., oil and gas revenues reached $199 billion in 2013 as oil production and oil prices increased. The five major oil companies, BP, Chevron, Conoco, ExxonMobil, and Shell had a combined total of $93 billion, which made up almost 50% of the total made in the United States. Market outlook. In 2015, the global oil and gas market is forecast to have a value of $3,699 billion. That's an increase of 40% since 2010. In 2015, the global oil and gas market is forecasted to have a volume of 91.8 billion barrels of oil equivalent. That's an increase of 24.4% since 2010. America accounts for 34.9% of the global oil and gas market value. External environments. Economic trends critically impinge on organizations within this industry. The economic factors in the external environment are mostly on the macro level. The oil and gas industry is the backbone of the American economy, and what happens in the industry reverberates throughout the entire economy. The industry is the primary energy source for transportation and the production of other goods and services. The oil and natural gas industry currently supplies more than 60% of the nation's total energy demand. The U.S. oil and natural gas industry total employment impact to the national economy in 2009, combining the operational and capital investment impacts, amounted to 9.2 million full-time and part-time jobs. This accounted for 5.3% of the total employment in the country. Although oil and gas has a big impact in employment, the stocks have greater volatility when compared to other businesses. Oil and natural gas prices see large price swings in the face of good or bad economic news. Finding and developing costs can also vary greatly depending on the play and how aggressively others are in the area. From a political standpoint, the primary way that politics can affect the oil and gas industry is through laws and regulatory compliance. Oil and gas companies are covered by a range of regulations that limit where, when, and how extraction is done. The interpretation of laws and regulations can also differ from state to state. One of the most recent events that put the oil industry in a negative light is the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which placed a moratorium on offshore drilling in the region and crippled the oil and gas industry. The event prompted more strict regulations and tighter safety and environmental guidelines, which require massive investments on the industry's part. From a technology standpoint, the oil and gas industry is adopting a lot of new technologies, and a lot of funding is going toward innovative companies that can help oil and gas companies work smarter. Advances in horizontal drilling, fracking, and 3D seismic are also helping the industry grow. Evidence of this increasing importance of oil and gas innovation is seen in patents. For example, the number of patents related to extractive industries more than doubled from 2010 to 2014. Advancements also include technology to aid in assessing areas that was previously inaccessible, being able to work in remote environments, minimizing exposure to hydrocarbons, and finding new ways to extract more quality material from the crude oil. When discussing the oil industry's importers' five forces, threat of new entry is low due to the high barriers of entry. Distribution channels and economies of scale is necessary. Highly specialized workers to operate the equipment and to make key drilling decisions is also very necessary for the oil industry. The most important is the high capital cost that's needed to start the business. For example, some types of pumping trucks needed at well sites cost more than $1 million apiece. This makes it very hard for new entrants into the market. Business rivalry is high because of the commodity-based nature of the business. There is also competition with other industries that supply chemical, energy, and fuel for both industrial and individual consumers. The competitive advantage comes from the ability to produce products at a lower cost via operational efficiencies. Supplier power is high because, as mentioned earlier, OPEC controls 40% of the world's supply of oil, which gives them a strong influence on the price of oil. Buyers' power for oil and gas are industrial consumers and individual consumers. Industrial buyers' power is low because upstream suppliers have an incentive to limit supply and keep prices high. Individual buyers' power is low because of the high volume of demand. When discussing the threat of substitutes for the oil industry in general includes alternative fuels such as coal, solar power, wind power, hydroelectricity, and even nuclear energy. Although advances are being made every day in these alternative energy industries, the technology to oust the oil and gas industries are years away. Remember, oil is used for more than just running our vehicles. It is also used in plastics and other materials. Oil remains the world's leading fuel with 33% of the global energy consumption. When discussing the target market, the general framework applies to market analysis, and segmentation in this market strategy follows the customary distinction in the oil and gas industry between upstream, midstream, and downstream activities. This framework has the advantage of being simple, widely accepted, and well understood. The segment involves upstream, which is the exploration and production, midstream, which is the transportation and pipeline and storage, and downstream, which is the refinery and the markets. Upstream companies target markets to midstream companies, while midstream target market is the downstream market, and downstream target market is the consumers. Demand is driven by economic activities, population growth, and energy efficiencies. Profitability of companies is driven by the success of new wells put on production, the ability to low operational costs, and the ability to increase production from existing well sites. The industrial marketing mix for the oil industry. The products the oil industry offers is crude oil, natural gas, and liquefied natural gas, otherwise known as LNG. Oil can be refined into numerous products. Gasoline and low sulfur diesel to drive via service stations and third parties who have their own service stations. Jet fuel to the airports and airlines. Furnace fuel to homeowners and businesses. Lubricants and waxes to industrial customers and retailers. And marine fuel to industrial customers as well as individual boat owners. This is just a few of the products that comes from the crude oil and natural gas industry. When discussing the distribution, it's an indirect distribution system to the end consumer. Hydrocarbons are produced from the formation and travel to central delivery points. The oil and gas are transported via pipeline to refineries where it is converted to a product useful to the end customer. When discussing the industry marketing mix and pricing, crude oil prices are determined by global supply and demand. In regards to demand, worldwide economic growth is the biggest factor. Growing economies require energy, and the petroleum products made from crude oil and other hydrocarbon liquids account for about 34% of the energy consumed worldwide. With little product differentiation, price becomes important to business sale. When selling direct to individuals, companies try to differentiate products by highlighting performance additives. Price is an important driver for demand when selling direct to customers. From the promotional aspect, direct marketing in business to business transactions play a less pertinent role than in other industries. Oil companies tend to have smaller advertising budgets compared to industries in retail. Product positioning and differentiation. Points of parity. The fact that oil and gas is a commodity makes it difficult to differentiate between fields and different products. Oil is basically the same and used for the same function, as well as gas. Point of difference. Gasoline retail benefits from points of difference by highlighting attributes and additives they claim make their product superior than others. For example, Chevron highlights that it adds Techron, which is supposed to keep your engine clean and running smooth. Shell markets its additive as V-Power that does the same thing, keeping your engine cool and running smooth. In conclusion, although technology for other sources of energy is getting better and becoming more efficient, expect the oil and gas industry to be around at least for the next 100 years.